Another primitive bite from Soul 3. How quaint. Commandant Vexlaw's 6 mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among the arthropodian faculty. His compound eyes swiveled independently, one fixed on his datapad, the other on the scrawny human standing at attention before his massive obsidian desk. Cadet Jack Reynolds fought the urge to slouch. After 3 years at the Galactic Military Academy, he'd grown accustomed to being the biological punchline. Humans were the new kids on the interstellar block. Barely a century into FTL travel, while most species had been zipping around the cosmos since Earth's dinosaurs were contemplating their impending doom. Your academic performance is... Vexlaw's antennae twitched, searching for a diplomatic term, consistent with your species' evolutionary timeline. Jack translated mentally, "You're as dumb as we expected." "Thank you, sir," he replied with practiced neutrality. No sense arguing with the being who controlled his future. "Perhaps you would have fared better at the Human Auxiliary Corps, rather than the elite GMR, continued Vexlaw, referencing the glorified space janitorial service where most humans ended up. The Academy atrium stretched beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows of Vexlaw's office, a dazzling menagerie of the galaxy's finest military talent. Crystalline luminari floated serenely, their bodies refracting light into deadly precision beams. 8-limbed Octovians simultaneously operated complex quantum computers while engaged in philosophical debates. Gaseous nebulites shifted form to adapt to any environment in seconds. And then there was Jack. Plain old human Jack. 2 arms, 2 legs, fragile skeleton, embarrassingly limited sensory perception, and a brain that could process only one conscious thought at a time. The Academy's token human. Nevertheless, Vexlaw continued, regulations permit all 3rd years to attempt the final qualification exam, regardless of evolutionary disadvantages. Jack perked up. The final exam, the Vault, was legendary. A massive underground labyrinth designed to test survival skills under extreme conditions. No human had ever passed it. Hell, no human had ever survived more than 6 hours inside. Report to Hangar 12 at dawn cycle. Vexlaw said with finality. The Evaluation Council will determine your parameters. Yes, sir, Jack saluted, hiding his excitement. This was his one chance to prove humans weren't just the galaxy's comic relief. Later, in the dormitory pod he shared with Grixin, a gelatinous morphoid who could alter his cellular structure at will, Jack packed his meager supplies. Your species' insistence on attempting the Vault borders on pathological, burbled Grixin, temporarily forming a mouth-like orifice in his translucent body. The statistical probability of your success is approximately 0.0034%. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Jack muttered, checking his standard-issue multi-tool for the 10th time. It is not confidence, it is mathematics, Grixin replied, genuinely puzzled. Your kind lacks natural defenses, regenerative capabilities, multiphasic cognition, or energy manipulation. What advantage do you possess? Jack grinned. We're really good at surviving when everyone expects us to die. Grixin's body rippled in the morphoid equivalent of laughter, a charming sentiment. I shall miss your species' quaint optimism when you fail to return. Dawn arrived with brutal efficiency. The Evaluation Council representatives from the Academy's 7 founding species regarded Jack with expressions ranging from mild curiosity to outright dismissal. Professor Quill, a feathered avianis with rainbow plumage, stepped forward. By Cadet Reynolds, the parameters of your examination have been calibrated to your species' limitations. You will have 24 Earth hours to navigate the first 3 levels of the Vault. This is half the standard requirement, but deemed appropriate given your constitution. Jack bit back a retort. Half the standard requirement? He'd been preparing for the full test. Should you fail, continued Professor Zinn, a cybernetically enhanced technoid, emergency extraction will occur, and you will be reassigned to the Human Auxiliary Corps. Should you succeed. She paused, her metallic features suggesting the concept was purely theoretical. You will advance to full cadet status. The massive vault door, a swirling marvel of alien metallurgy that seemed to bend light around its edges, began to grind open. Cold air rushed out, carrying whispers of challenges within. "Remember, Cadet, Professor Ursa, a massive ursine Pandorian rumbled. This is merely an assessment. Your failure reflects only the natural order of galactic hierarchy." Jack squared his shoulders and stepped toward the entrance. "With all due respect, Professors, I don't plan on failing." Professor Quill's beak clacked in amusement. "Of course not. None of your predecessors did either." As Jack crossed the threshold, the heavy door sealed behind him with a resonant thud that echoed through the vault's cavernous interior. The sound carried a simple message that every candidate understood regardless of species. "You're on your own now." The first thing Jack noticed was the darkness. Not the kind of darkness you get on Earth when you turn out the lights, the kind where your eyes eventually adjust, but the absolute absence of photons that made his human eyes about as useful as decorative glass marbles. "Typical," he muttered, fumbling for his standard-issue illuminator. "Test designed by species with infrared vision, echolocation, and whatever the hell the luminari use." The illuminator sputtered to life, casting a pathetic glow that extended maybe 3 meters in any direction. Beyond that, more darkness, punctuated by ominous geometric shapes that could be anything from support pillars to ravenous predators playing statues. His comm unit buzzed. "Cadet Reynolds," came Professor Zinn's metallic voice. "Biometric readings indicate elevated stress hormones and impaired visual function. Would you like to activate emergency extraction protocols?" Jack checked his chronometer. 2 minutes in. 2 minutes. "Negative, Professor. Just getting acclimated." "As you wish." 47 previous human candidates requested extraction within the first hour. The record stands at 53 minutes. The con clicked off before Jack could respond. Great. Even his baseline anxieties were being monitored and judged. Jack took stock of his surroundings. The vault's first level appeared to be a massive chamber with branching corridors. The walls were made of some sort of shifting material that seemed to absorb his illuminator's light rather than reflect it. Distant sounds echoed mechanical whirs, liquid drips, and something that sounded disturbingly like giggling. He selected a corridor at random and began walking. According to Academy law, each species faced customized challenges in the vault. The gelatinous morphoids navigated fire chambers. The crystalline luminari faced sonic disruptors that could shatter their bodies. The telepathic mentulans encountered psionic dampening fields. What would a human-specific challenge look like? Probably a multiple-choice quiz with no correct answers. The corridor ended abruptly at a chasm. Jack's illuminator couldn't reach the other side or the bottom. His comm unit chimed again. "Level 1 challenge, crossing," announced Professor Ursa's rumbling voice. "Cadet Reynolds, this gap is precisely calibrated to be 17% beyond your species' maximum documented jumping distance." Jack peered into the abyss. "Are there supposed to be climbing holes or something?" "Other species would leverage flight, telekinesis, or extendable appendages," Ursa replied, making no effort to hide his amusement. "Perhaps you could. Throw your belongings across and then jump very hard." The con went silent again. Jack knelt and examined the edge of the chasm. The vault was a test of adaptability, not raw physical capabilities. There had to be a solution that didn't involve sprouting wings. That's when he noticed a nearly invisible seam running along the floor about a meter from the edge. He pressed his hand against it, and a section of the floor depressed slightly. "Well, I'll be damned," Jack muttered. He backed up 20 paces, then sprinted toward the chasm. Just before reaching the seam, he jumped not to cross the gap, but to land hard on the pressure-sensitive section of flooring. The floor panel sank with a satisfying click, and from the darkness of the chasm, a narrow bridge extended, connecting the two sides. "Her," came Professor Quill's surprised voice over the comm. That solution was unexpected. "We may not have wings," Jack replied, crossing the bridge, "but we are pretty good at pushing buttons." 3 hours later, Jack had navigated 7 more challenges, each supposedly calibrated to highlight human inadequacy. A maze filled with toxic gas was conquered when Jack realized the ventilation system could be manipulated. A chamber of rapidly shifting gravity fields was traversed by timing the fluctuations and leveraging momentum. He wasn't setting any academy records, but he also wasn't dead, which, according to the statistics helpfully provided by Professor Zinn after each challenge, put him in the top 10% of human performers. As he approached the transition to level 2, the con crackled again. Cadet Reynolds, Professor Zinn's voice held a note of genuine curiosity. Your solutions thus far have been unorthodox. Unorthodox is a fancy word for not how we expected you to do it, but we can't technically disqualify you, Jack replied, catching his breath against a wall. Indeed. For a cybernetic being, Zinn sounded almost amused. Level 2 presents significantly advanced challenges. 8 other cadets entered the vault today. Only 3 have progressed to level 2. Jack perked up. Wait, there are other cadets in here right now? I thought we were tested individually. A long pause followed. That information was not relevant to your examination parameters. Before Jack could press further, the transition door to level 2 slid open, revealing a vast cavern tinged with bioluminescent fungi. The air was thicker here, heavy with moisture and strange spores that made his eyes water. Halfway across the cavern, an Octavian cadet was engaged in combat with a hovering security drone. The Octavian's 8 limbs were a blur of motion, 4 manipulating an energy shield while the others worked to disable the drone. Hey, Jack called out, jogging toward the alien cadet. We can team up. The Octavian's 4 eyes swiveled toward Jack momentarily. Human. You survived level 1? The drone took advantage of the distraction, shooting a paralyzing beam that the Octavian barely deflected. Need a hand? Jack asked, reaching for his multi-tool. I require no assistance from a species that still relies on oppositional digits, the Octavian replied haughtily, returning focus to the drone. Have it your way, Jack muttered, surveying the cavern for his own challenge. He didn't have to wait long. A different security drone detached from the ceiling and hovered directly in his path, its weapons systems humming to life. Cadet Reynolds, came Professor Ursa's voice. Level 2, Challenge 1, Combat. This security drone is programmed with combat parameters 30% below standard, appropriate for human reflexes. Jack eyed the drone, which was already targeting him with multiple weapons systems. So generous of you. The drone attacked without warning, firing a barrage of stun pulses that Jack barely dodged by diving behind a rock formation. His heart hammered in his chest. Even at 30% below standard, the drone moved faster than any human could hope to match. Peering around the rock, Jack observed the Octavian still battling its drone. Despite having 8 limbs and enhanced neural processing, the alien cadet was struggling. That's when Jack noticed something odd. Both drones followed identical attack patterns. 3 bursts. Hover right, recalibrate. 2 bursts. Hover left, recalibrate. They're running the same program. As his drone rounded the rock formation, Jack timed its movement and threw a handful of bioluminescent fungi spores into its sensor array. The drone sputtered, temporarily blinded by the organic material clogging its visual inputs. In that moment of confusion, Jack jammed his multi-tool into a small gap in the drone's housing and twisted hard. The machine emitted a high-pitched whine before dropping to the ground, disabled. Unorthodox tactics noted, came Professor Zinn's voice, now tinged with something like respect. Challenge completed in 47 seconds, a new record for your species. The Octavian, still battling its drone, spared Jack a look of disbelief before redoubling its efforts. Jack moved on through the cavern, encountering 4 more challenges, each supposedly calibrated for human limitations, but each overcome with what the professors increasingly referred to as creative non-compliance with expected parameters. As he approached the final challenge of level 2, Jack noticed something strange, a section of wall that seemed out of place with the organic but flowing design of the rest of the vault. It was too regular, too manufactured. Checking that no drones were nearby, he examined the wall more closely. His fingers found an almost imperceptible seam. Without overthinking it, he pressed firmly on the center panel. The wall slid open silently, revealing a narrow maintenance corridor bathed in utility lighting. Jack hesitated only briefly before stepping inside. The panel closed behind him with a soft hydraulic hiss. He'd found something he definitely wasn't supposed to find. The maintenance corridor was suspiciously ordinary compared to the baroque challenges of the vault. Utility pipes ran along the ceiling, labels in standard galactic indicated power conduits and data transmission lines, and soft ambient lighting eliminated the need for his illuminator. It felt like stumbling into the backstage area of an elaborate theater production. "Hello?" Jack called out cautiously. No response. His comm unit remained silent too. Either the signal couldn't penetrate the corridor walls, or someone had decided to stop monitoring him. Neither option was particularly comforting. Jack followed the corridor, periodically checking for surveillance devices, for a facility that tracked candidates' every heartbeat and hormone fluctuation. The maintenance passage seemed remarkably unmonitored. After several minutes of walking, the corridor opened into a small control room. Holographic displays hovered over workstations, showing real-time feeds from throughout the vault. Jack could see the Octavians still battling drones, apparently having moved on to level 3. A luminary candidate floated serenely through what appeared to be a chamber of sonic disruption. A morphoid flowed through a narrow passage filled with laser grids. "Creepy," Jack muttered, watching what was essentially reality television with a body count. But one display caught his attention, a secured terminal with a pulsing red border. Unlike the monitoring stations, this one wasn't focused on the candidates. Instead, it displayed schematics labeled Project Apex. In a script Jack recognized from his xenolinguistics classes as High Kralian, the language of the Academy's uppermost administration. Curiosity overwhelming caution, Jack approached the terminal. To his surprise, it was unlocked. Whoever had been operating it must have left in a hurry. The schematics rotated slowly, showing what appeared to be military formations and invasion vectors. What the hell? Jack's fingers moved over the interface, navigating through classified files with growing alarm. Project Apex wasn't just a military exercise, it was a full-scale invasion plan targeting multiple systems, including Sol. Earth was prominently marked with a designation that translated roughly to Stage 1 neutralization target. A video file automatically began playing. A regal figure appeared, tall and imposing, with iridescent scales and penetrating eyes that seemed to shift color with each blink. Jack recognized the species immediately: Kralian, the self-proclaimed apex predators of the galactic community. They held the majority of seats on the Galactic Council and key positions throughout the Academy. Phase 3 preparations proceed on schedule. Excellency, reported a uniformed Kralian officer. The integration of Vault combat data has proven invaluable in developing species-specific neutralization protocols. The regal figure, obviously someone of great importance, nodded approvingly. And the humans? Has their assessment yielded useful data? Minimal, Your Eminence. As predicted, they present negligible military threat. Their physical and cognitive limitations make them ideal for initial subjugation demonstrations. When the other species witness how easily Earth falls, resistance will be discouraged. Excellent. The figure leaned forward, revealing an ornate crown-like structure fused to its skull. The galaxy has tolerated these primitive species long enough. Under Apex rule, order will finally prevail. A Apex King. The mythical sovereign of the Kralians, rumored to exist but never seen publicly. And he was planning to use humans as an example to terrorize the galaxy into submission. Jack's blood ran cold. The Vault wasn't just a training exercise, it was a data-gathering operation for a galactic coup. Every challenge, every failure, every success was being catalogued to develop the perfect invasion strategy against each species. The terminal suddenly flashed red, and an automated voice announced, "Unauthorized access detected. Security protocols initiated." Oh crap! Jack backed away from the console. A hidden door at the rear of the control room slid open, and a figure stepped through. Professor Zorb, the Academy's reclusive quantum mechanics instructor. The spindly alien froze upon seeing Jack. "Cadet Reynolds?" The professor's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of extreme surprise in phaselings. "You should not be here." You cannot be here. Professor, Jack began carefully, I think we need to talk about Project Apex. Zorb's body shimmered slightly. Phaselings naturally shifted partially out of phase when agitated. Lower your voice. The monitoring systems are currently scrambled, Jack finished, pointing to a flashing alert on one of the displays. My unauthorized access triggered a security protocol that's running a full system diagnostic. We have about 3 minutes before the monitors come back online. Zorb stared at Jack with new interest. Perhaps I have underestimated your species' observational capabilities. You wouldn't be the first, Jack replied. Now, want to tell me why the Academy is planning to invade Earth and half the galaxy? Not the Academy, Zorb corrected, moving quickly to the terminal and engaging a more sophisticated scrambling protocol. The Kralians, specifically the Apex King and his inner circle. Most faculty members know nothing of this. But you do. Zorb's form shimmered again. I have suspicions enough to begin monitoring unauthorized data transmissions from the vault. The Kralians have always viewed themselves as the galaxy's natural rulers, but until recently they lacked the military advantage to act on that belief. And now they're using the vault to develop specific strategies against every species, Jack concluded. Precisely. Each challenge is designed not just to test candidates but to gather combat data on physiological responses, problem-solving approaches, and tactical decision-making. Zorb's eyes narrowed. Humans are of particular interest because you are an unknown variable. Your species achieves outcomes that defy statistical models. You mean we're unpredictable? Dangerously so, Zorb agreed. Which is why. A loud klaxon interrupted them. Red lights began flashing throughout the control room. Security breach detected in Sector 7, announced an automated voice, and lockdown protocols engaged. Zorb's body flickered rapidly between phases. They found us sooner than expected. You must return to the vault immediately. And then what? Complete the test like nothing happened while they planned to invade my homeworld. If you fail to complete the examination, you will be extracted and memory wiped as a failed candidate. Your knowledge will die with your memories. Zorb manipulated the terminal with blurring speed. Complete the vault, earn your credentials, and you will have freedom of movement within the Academy and access to communication systems. Jack processed this. You want me to warn Earth? I want you to stop being so loud while I work, Zorb snapped, but there was no real malice in the professor's voice. I am activating a maintenance access tunnel that will return you to Level 2, Challenge 5. You have. Zorb checked the terminal, 17 hours remaining to complete your examination. That's not going to help Earth much if the Apex King. The Apex King is here, Zorb interrupted, in the vault. Level 4 contains a secure command center where he oversees Project Apex personally. Jack's eyes widened. The actual king? Here? Yes. Quite unreachable to a third-year cadet, I assure you. Zorb finished the security override. A section of wall slid open, revealing another maintenance tunnel. Now go. Complete the examination. We will discuss counter-strategies once you have proper Academy credentials. Jack hesitated at the tunnel entrance. Professor, why are you helping me? Why oppose your own government? Zorb's form solidified, a sign of absolute sincerity among phaselings. Because the Kralians forget a fundamental axiom of galactic civilization: diversity breeds resilience. A galaxy under single-species rule is a galaxy one pathogen away from extinction. The professor's eyes fixed on Jack. Now hurry. You have a test to pass. As Jack disappeared into the tunnel, Zorb called after him, and Cadet Reynolds. Perhaps avoid the unorthodox solutions for now. Attracting additional attention would be unwise. The tunnel sealed behind Jack with a soft hiss. 17 hours to finish a test designed to prove humans were pushover invasion targets. No pressure. Jack emerged from the maintenance tunnel directly into Challenge 5 of Level 2, a chamber filled with rapidly shifting gravity fields. The sudden transition from normal gravity to a disorienting spin nearly sent his stomach contents into an equally disorienting trajectory. Cadet Reynolds. Professor Quill's voice crackled over the comm. Your life signs disappeared from our monitors for 18 minutes. Explain. Jack thought quickly as he grabbed a handhold to steady himself. You must be a system glitch, Professor. I've been right here trying not to vomit for what feels like an eternity. Isham. Our instruments detected an anomalous energy signature consistent with a phase displacement. Thanks for the cover, Professor Zorb. Maybe it was that burrito from the mess hall, Jack suggested, slowly adjusting to the shifting gravity. Those things are quantum events in themselves. A disapproving click came over the comm. Human digestive processes are not quantum events, Cadet. Complete the challenge. The gravity chamber was straightforward if you were a species evolved to handle rapid gravitational changes. For humans, whose inner ear fluid sloshed around like a badly secured water balloon, it was a recipe for spectacular disorientation. But Jack had a new perspective on these challenges. They weren't just tests, they were data-gathering exercises for an invasion. Every struggle, every adaptation was being catalogued to develop human-specific warfare strategies. Fine, let's give them some bad data. Instead of fighting the gravity shifts as previous human candidates likely had, Jack deliberately moved with them, using the changing vectors to build momentum. He let himself appear clumsy and uncoordinated, while actually making calculated movements toward the exit. Cadet Reynolds. Professor Zinn's voice held a note of confusion. Your movement pattern is highly inefficient. Just trying not to hurl, Professor, Jack called back, while deliberately ricocheting off a wall in what appeared to be a random trajectory but actually sent him precisely toward the exit portal. Your navigational approach defies logical analysis, Zinn continued. Our predictive algorithms cannot. That's humans for you, Jack interrupted, reaching the exit after a particularly dramatic spin. We're just bags of water bouncing around the universe. He stepped through to level 3 with 17 minutes to spare on Challenge 5, not a record by Academy standards, but apparently baffling to the monitoring systems. Level 3 greeted him with a vast crystalline maze that reflected and refracted light in disorienting patterns. According to Academy law, Level 3 was where most non-Kralian cadets failed. Even the brilliant Octovians rarely progressed beyond the third challenge. Jack's comm unit buzzed. Level 3 commencement, announced Commandant Vex Law himself. To be advised, Cadet Reynolds, only one human has ever reached this level. She survived for precisely 7 minutes and 22 seconds. What happened to her? Jack asked, studying the crystalline walls. Insufficient hydration management, Vexlaw replied cryptically. Jack checked his water supply. Half a liter remaining. The crystal maze apparently dehydrated candidates rapidly, a particular challenge for water-based species like humans. Great, he muttered, pocketing the water flask. Let's be unpredictable. The first challenge was a labyrinth of light beams that triggered painful neurological responses when touched. Most species would use enhanced senses or technological aids to navigate the invisible pattern. Jack had neither, but he did have sweat. Human perspiration, it turned out, created a faint vapor cloud that the light beams subtly illuminated. By moving slowly and watching how his body's natural moisture interacted with the energy field, he traced a safe path forward. Fascinating adaptation, came Professor Quill's voice, using biological excretions as a detection mechanism. We call it glowing with accomplishment, Jack replied, reaching the other side. Challenge 2 involved a room where the oxygen content gradually decreased to levels that would incapacitate most oxygen-breathing species. The expected solution involved finding and activating emergency air supplies. Instead, Jack employed a breathing technique taught in Academy survival classes but rarely used by non-humans, controlled hyperventilation followed by breath holding. It wasn't pretty, in fact, it looked like he was having a panic attack, but it got him through the chamber with minimal oxygen use. Your respiratory patterns are concerning, Professor Ursa commented. Are you experiencing cardiovascular distress? Nope, Jack gasped, emerging from the low oxygen chamber, just efficiently using my resources. With each challenge, Jack deliberately employed solutions that appeared chaotic but were actually carefully calculated. He used human endurance to outlast time-based obstacles rather than trying to defeat them directly. He leveraged his body's seemingly primitive thermal regulation to detect subtle environmental changes. He even used his comparatively slow neural processing to avoid traps designed to trigger instinctive responses. By the fifth challenge, the professors had fallen characteristically silent. Jack suspected they were busy recalibrating their invasion models. Cadet Reynolds, Professor Zorb's voice suddenly came over the comm the first time the phaseling had directly communicated during the examination. Your performance metrics are anomalous. Jack detected the hidden message. You're attracting attention. Just lucky, Professor, he replied casually, though my arms are getting pretty tired from all this climbing. Indeed. The remaining challenges of Level 3 traditionally require significant upper body strength. Perhaps a more conventional approach would be prudent. Message received. Tone it down. Jack adjusted his strategy, deliberately failing parts of challenges before succeeding through apparently desperate last-ditch efforts. He made certain to appear exhausted and at his limits, which, to be fair, wasn't entirely an act. 20 hours into the exam, human endurance was indeed being tested. After completing the 7th challenge by the skin of his teeth, literally he'd used his teeth to grip a climbing rope when his hands cramped, Jack's comm crackled again. Cadet Reynolds, came Commandant Vexlaw's astonished voice. You have completed Level 3. This is unprecedented for your species. Jack allowed himself to collapse against a wall, wheezing dramatically. So I pass? You have successfully completed the modified examination parameters, Vexlaw confirmed, sounding distinctly uncomfortable. Proceed to the extraction point at the end of the corridor for immediate medical evaluation and status confirmation. Jack eyed the corridor and the discrete maintenance access panel barely visible at its far end. The extraction point would take him out of the vault and safely back to the academy. Professor Zorb would contact him later. The smart play was to take the win and live to fight another day. But the Apex King was on Level 4, along with all the invasion plans. Actually, Commandant, Jack wheezed into the comm, I'd like to attempt Level 4. A long silence followed. When Vexlaw spoke again, his mandibles could be heard clicking rapidly in agitation. That is not permitted. Your examination parameters specified 3 levels only. With respect, sir, the Academy Charter, Section 7, Paragraph 12 states that any cadet who successfully completes their assigned parameters may petition for advanced evaluation. Jack had memorized this particular regulation after finding it buried in the student code, a classic case of humans reading the fine print. Another long silence. Then your petition is denied, leads to extraction. On what grounds, sir? Jack pressed, trying to sound like an eager student rather than someone who discovered a galactic invasion plot. The Charter specifies that advanced evaluation can only be denied for medical or security reasons. Security reasons are precisely why Vexlaw cut himself off abruptly. Proceed to extraction immediately, Cadet. That is a direct order. Jack affected confusion. Has something happened, sir? Is Level 4 unsafe? The comm unit emitted several clicks and whistles, untranslated Arthropodian, that Jack suspected were not Academy-approved expressions. Finally, Professor Zorb's voice returned. Perhaps, Commandant, we should allow the human to attempt Level 4. His performance thus far suggests our species' capability models may require recalibration. Absolutely not, Vexlaw hissed. Level 4 is restricted to candidates who have completed their assigned parameters and petition for advanced evaluation, Zorb finished smoothly. As the human correctly stated, the Charter is quite clear. More untranslated clicking ensued. Jack used the opportunity to examine the maintenance panel more closely. If he could access the service tunnels again, he might bypass whatever security awaited at the Level 4 entrance. Very well, Vexlaw finally responded, his voice tight with restraint. Cadet Reynolds may attempt Level 4. But be advised, human no non-Kralian has ever survived its challenges. First time for everything, Jack replied cheerfully while prying open the maintenance panel. Security protocols for Level 4 transition will require 3 minutes to recalibrate, Professor Zinn announced. Please remain stationary until. Jack slipped into the maintenance tunnel and pulled the panel closed behind him. 3 minutes was more than enough time to get lost in the service corridors. As the professor's increasingly alarmed voices faded behind him, Jack navigated through the dimly lit tunnels, following the main power conduits that logically would lead to the command center Zorb had mentioned. After several turns, he encountered a security door with Kralian markings that translated roughly to authorized personnel only and, less encouragingly, molecular disintegration for unauthorized access. Well, that's problematic, Jack muttered, examining the security panel. But once again, human unpredictability proved advantageous. The scanner was calibrated for Kralian biosignatures, specifically designed to detect unauthorized Kralians attempting to access restricted areas. It hadn't been programmed to account for humans because, frankly, no one expected a human to get this far. Jack pressed his palm against the scanner. After a moment of confusion, the system defaulted to its basic programming, non-Kralian biological entity detected. Maintenance staff authorization assumed. Limited access granted. The doors slid open, revealing Level 4 not a challenge course, but a sophisticated command center. Holographic displays showed galactic maps with invasion vectors. Kralian officers moved efficiently between workstations, and at the center, seated upon an elevated platform, was the unmistakable figure Jack had seen in the classified files. The Apex King himself, surrounded by his war council, planning the subjugation of the galaxy. Jack quickly ducked behind a storage container, his mind racing. He was drastically outmatched, completely unauthorized, and definitely about to cause an interstellar incident. But hey, humans were good at surviving when everyone expected them to die. Hidden behind the storage container, Jack surveyed the command center. 12 Kralian officers operated various stations in the circular room. The Apex King occupied a raised dais in the center, surrounded by a holographic display of the galaxy so detailed it showed real-time ship movements and defense system statuses. Jack's comm unit suddenly activated with an Academy-wide alert. Attention all personnel. Security breach in progress. Human cadet unaccounted for. The presumed infiltration of restricted areas. All non-essential operations suspended. So much for stealth. The alert sent the command center into controlled chaos. Officers checked security systems while the Apex King rose from his seat, his iridescent scales shifting to a threatening crimson. Find the human, he commanded, his voice a resonant growl that needed no amplification. Activate neural scramblers when located. I want it taken alive for study. It, Jack thought indignantly. Definitely the bad guy. A proximity alarm blared from a nearby console. An officer called out, "Bioscan detects human life signs within the command center perimeter." Jack's hiding spot wouldn't last another 30 seconds. He needed a diversion, a weapon, a miracle, or preferably all three. His eyes fell on a maintenance panel near his position. The label, in standard galactic, read, Environmental Control Junction 4F Caution, Pressurized System. A desperate plan formed. Jack pried open the panel to reveal a complex array of pipes and control mechanisms. The Academy's central environmental system regulated everything from temperature to atmospheric composition, and apparently, it ran right through this junction. Working quickly, Jack used his multi-tool to loosen a pressure valve while simultaneously redirecting the auxiliary coolant flow. His Academy engineering training wasn't just theoretical after all. The pressure gauge needle swung dangerously into the red zone as Jack overrode the safety protocols. Human located. Section 4, West Quadrant, shouted one of the officers, pointing directly toward Jack's position. 2 Kralian security personnel advanced toward him, neural scramblers drawn. Their faceplates reflected the pulsing red emergency lights. Jack took one final look at his handiwork and whispered, "Sorry about the mess." He slammed the butt of his multi-tool against the weakened valve. The junction erupted with a deafening hiss, releasing a dense cloud of superheated steam into the command center. Warning klaxons blared as the environmental systems went haywire. Temperature regulators failed across the deck, causing climate control panels to short-circuit in cascading electrical failures. The command center dissolved into chaos. Tralian officers abandoned their stations, some desperately trying to restore systems while others sought cover from falling debris and electrical sparks. The holographic display of the galaxy flickered and distorted. Through the billowing steam, Jack sprinted toward the central dais. The Apex King stood unmoved amid the chaos, his crimson scales now pulsing with bioluminescent patterns of rage. Unlike his subordinates, he seemed entirely unfazed by the environmental catastrophe. "Impressive improvisation, human," the Apex King said, his voice cutting through the alarm sirens. "Your species has always excelled at creating disorder." Jack stood at the edge of the dais, facing the alien ruler. "Not just disorder. Justice. I've seen your plans for Earth, a resource extraction that will leave our planet uninhabitable." The Apex King's head tilted slightly. "Resources must flow to the worthy. The strong survive by utilizing the weak. It is the cosmic order." "Not my cosmic order." Jack activated his data transmitter, the real reason he'd infiltrated the command center. The device synchronized with the holographic controls, downloading the invasion plans, defense codes, and fleet positions displayed in the galaxy map. The Apex King's eyes narrowed to glittering slits. "You believe your primitive warning will save your world? The Kralian Armada is already mobilizing. Earth will be harvested regardless." "Maybe." Jack smiled as the download completed. "But now we'll be ready for you." A thunderous explosion rocked the far side of the command center, Jack's planned extraction point. Through the smoke and steam emerged three figures in Academy cadet uniforms, their faces covered by rebreathers. "Jack," shouted a familiar voice. Lynn, his squad leader, transports waiting. "Move." The Apex King lunged with surprising speed, taloned hand reaching for Jack's throat. "You will not leave this place." Jack rolled sideways, narrowly avoiding the King's grasp. The alien ruler's claws carved deep grooves into the metal floor where Jack had stood moments before. "Your Majesty," Jack called as he sprinted toward his fellow cadets, "you really should update your security protocols. Humans are full of surprises." The Apex King's roar of fury followed them as they raced through the extraction point, the command center crumbling around them. Jack clutched the data transmitter. Earth now had a fighting chance, and the Kralians had just learned that humans would not be harvested without a battle. As they reached the waiting transport, Jack turned for one last look at the chaos he'd unleashed. Through the smoke and flames, he could still see the Apex King standing amid the ruins of his command center, scales blazing like fire, making a solemn promise that their confrontation was far from over.